So let's take a look at what it's like to game on the Surface laptop. In this one video, I'm going to show you everything you need to know to decide whether the Surface laptop is a capable gaming machine for you or not. For some it will be, and for some it won't. As you can see on this Grand Theft Auto 5 test, we're getting about 30 FPS pretty much in all areas. It's quite impressive that this machine with 4 GB of RAM is actually running the game quite nicely. I'm quite impressed. However, the story changes once we're actually driving around in the city. So we drop from 30 to 25, sometimes 22, depending on where we're at. So it really does matter. Before I show you more about the gaming, let's talk a little bit about the accessories that I have that go along with my Surface laptop. This is going to help you game. We have a nice gaming mouse. This is the MX Master by Logitech. It's a really nice mouse that has very good precision controls, and it's very ergonomic and it plays really well. The Surface laptop, we have an Xbox 360 controller. This is going to be very useful if you're coming from console gaming. Yeah, it also comes with a dongle that you can plug into a hub, which I also purchased. That's going to give me Ethernet and 3 more USB ports, and I have it plugged into a external hard drive, 1 TB of all my games on a SSD. These are some extra things that I got for my Surface laptop experience because I wanted the Surface laptop to be able to game a little bit better. So let's go back and take a look at what it's like to game on the Surface laptop. So let's talk about what kind of graphical settings we have set on this machine. So right now it's 800 by 600 and I have everything on lowest, and you know, it is playable, but from time to time it is going to start lagging up. I gotta hand it to you though, I was extremely surprised that even a 4 GB machine could play this game. Really surprising that you could do that. Alright, so here I am displaying the graphical settings so you guys know that I'm not lying to you, that this is what the graphics are actually like. Here we are doing the benchmark test, and it's showing again that the game's getting a consistent 30 frames per second. While the benchmark does a good job of showcasing what the graphics are like, it does not do it justice while you're actually gaming. It's sad to say that even though the game is playable at 30 to 25 FPS, it is somewhat painful, and if you come from a background where you're not just playing on a PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360, this will be somewhat annoying because there are some frame drops out there. However, if you have realistic expectations and you know that this is a laptop and it has integrated graphics and you're down to game on it just to see what it's like, just know you can game on this machine. It's just not perfect. The first time I booted up Grand Theft Auto, when I was inside the home, I was really impressed. I was getting around 35 FPS. But again, as soon as you go outside, it's a totally different story. Alright, so here I am driving around, and again, the game initially starts off well, but I believe there is some thermal throttling involved when you're gaming. Thermal throttling is a phenomenon where the computer system downclocks its processor and its GPU so the laptop doesn't just melt and burn up. So part of the process for this happening is that there isn't enough resources to go around, and this game really ought to be played on an 8 GB laptop. So when you're choosing your laptop, make sure you absolutely pick the 8 GB model for around 1300. Yes, you can game with 4 GB, but it does get painful from time to time. Keep that in mind. When examining the memory profile in the task manager, you can see that the memory is almost maxed out at 3.6. This is crazy because there's only about 400 megabytes left for the operating system and everything else. If another application were to turn on, you could feel stuttering. The main reason why we feel stuttering in low FPS is because of the RAM. The integrated graphics, the RX 620 should be able to handle it, but it just doesn't do very well in this test. Next game up is Diablo 3. Diablo 3 actually runs a little bit better, and this is due to Diablo's graphical style. So because it's top-down view, there isn't a lot of physics, there isn't a lot of action going on. And even when there is, the game is designed to be fairly optimized and has fairly low polygon count. So here you can see I'm running around attacking monsters, and we're literally getting like 50 FPS on pretty much low graphics, but still it's playable resolutions at like 1280 by 800, which is not bad. When I was playing this, when I was testing this game out, I was actually enjoying it, and it really wasn't that bad, all things considered. I'm trying to see how many monsters I can get to come at me to see if we can bring the FPS down below maybe 30, and I actually wasn't successful in doing that. The game does drop sometimes to 35, but it always bounces back to 40. So Diablo 3 is definitely a playable game on this system, and it runs well. Initially when I tried Starcraft 2, I noticed that I was getting only around 30 FPS, and I wondered, you know, if there was tons of enemies, how would I be able to play this game? Once I make more units, once the battle advances, 15 minutes into the game, how will I be able to play? The answer is put everything down to low graphics, and you'll be getting hundreds of frames initially. This is actually really surprising for me. When I saw this, I was like, man, this is actually impressive. I'm actually going to be able to play at least a 1v1 game. We're going to be able to have 50 to hundreds of units on the map, and it's actually going to be playable. 4 barracks. We have tons of units. I'm already attacking the AI, and the AI is already offered to surrender. And as you can see, we're kicking ass. So it's definitely playable on the Surface laptop. Let's see what Overwatch is like on the Surface laptop. So regardless of which graphical settings you play on, you will not be able to play this game above 35 to 40 FPS. As you can see, we were getting 20 FPS earlier, and this is really not good for gameplay. Even though I was getting such low FPS, it did feel a little bit smoother than 18 or 20 FPS. It felt more like 30, 35. Some games just do a better job optimizing the gameplay, but it's realistically just not very playable. Battlefield 4 was a totally different story. I was always getting around 30 to maybe sometimes 28 FPS, sometimes 35 depending on what was going on, and intense action could bring it down to 25, but Battlefield 4 was actually realistically playable. If you're in a tank, you're fine. If you're in a jet, you're also fine. It doesn't really matter what you're doing in Battlefield 4, the gaming is fairly capable, and I was enjoying it. Next time I'm going to be going over to one of my friends' houses. We're going to have a little LAN party. I'm going to bring my computer over. We're going to play some games. And I'm confident that the Iris 620 can play games pretty alright. You know, it's not perfect. As long as you have realistic expectations, that's really the most important part about all of this. So here I am driving around trying to kill a tank. And I did have the jump on this guy. However, he had the first shot, but he missed a couple times because I dodged his shots, and I just kept attacking him, and eventually I did end up killing him, which was pretty awesome. Here I'm testing it in the Little Bird, and it works just fine. However, I wasn't able to kill the guy that was in the Jeep. On the ground, though, it's another story when you're aiming on foot, because aiming is much more important. Here we're playing Garry's mod, and I can tell you that Garry's mod runs pretty decent. You know, what's a Garry's mod game without just some spamming? So I was trying to see, you know, would it crash if I spammed a bunch of items? And it looks like it was just fine. I did lag up the server a little bit, but it's no big deal. Here we have somebody who spawned a really interesting machine. It looks like some kind of massive train boat thing. I don't know what this thing is, but it looks pretty amazing. I was really impressed with it. As I was checking it out, I decided maybe I'd take a walk like inside of it, and one of the owners who built this thing really didn't like that, so he ended up coming after me, as you can see here. And what's a Garry's mod game without blowing up barrels? Counter-Strike Global Offensive Performance was pretty impressive. Put all the graphics on medium, play on 1920 by 1080, and you can get a good 30-35 FPS. If you're looking to get in the 50s, lower it down to 1280 by 800, and the gaming experience will be a lot more enjoyable. A lot of the bigger companies out there that make games like League of Legends and Valve, they really have done a great job optimizing their games. League of Legends runs totally fine even on high graphics. Play in any resolution you want. You're going to get good ping, you're going to get good 40 to 50 FPS, and even while you're gaming during intense moments, it's still a viable gaming machine. The noise level of this machine gets extremely loud. You're getting about 45 decibels, and when you have the CPU maxed at around 3 GHz, it's really just kind of a loud machine. Unfortunately, 45 decibels is noticeable, and if you're gaming, that's what'll happen. When it comes to heat levels, this is where I was surprised, because the heat of the laptop does not exceed a certain level that becomes uncomfortable. You're getting only about 40 to 45 Celsius on the front of the cloth-based material, which really isn't bad considering an all-metal laptop probably would be a lot more annoying to use. Of course, at the very bottom of it and at the back of it, you do have a vent that spits out a lot of heat, but the cloth-based material actually does enhance the gaming because you're really just not sweating on it. You're not getting burnt by it.